the Guardian of Forever. In Fallout 2, there's a special encounter that blows a lot of people's minds. While traveling the wasteland, the Chosen One can come across an ancient-looking time portal, a monument called the Guardian of Forever. This is actually in reference to Star Trek in an episode called The City on the Edge of Forever. In that episode, there's a portal of the same name that teleports Kirk and Spock to New York in the 1920s. Now, this portal does the same thing in the game. Passing through it can actually let you travel back in time, right before the events of Fallout 1. You are suddenly transported into Vault 13, and you are given a strange choice of breaking the vault's water chip. Yes, that same water chip that eventually kicks off the entire first game. After you smash it, a message pops up in-game saying the vault now has maybe 100 to 150 days of water left. And for some reason, this comforts you. And it totally makes sense. If the water chip hadn't broke, the vault dweller may not have founded Arroyo, the village where the Chosen One was born. So no broken water chip, no Chosen One in existence. Besides possibly dooming the inhabitants of the vault, you can also browse the Overseer's command center, grab some mentats, and a unique energy weapon called the Solar Scorcher before the portal closes forever. Now, this isn't really canon, but it's just a fun little Easter egg that shows some love for pop culture. Monty Python. Fallout 2 went all in on Monty Python references, and they're scattered throughout the game. The most famous one is the Bridgekeeper special random encounter, something the devs lifted straight off of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. While traveling to the Sierra Army Depot, you'll find a rope bridge blocked by a brown-robed figure who demands you answer 3 questions before crossing. The first 2 are simple. He simply asks for your name and your quest. But the third question is random Fallout trivia that'll get you killed if you answer wrong. Here's the trick though. If you answer the third question with another question, the Bridgekeeper spontaneously combusts and dies, giving you 500 XP. You can loot his robes afterward, which work like combat armor, but weigh half as much. But if you try to fight him directly, a kamikaze Brahmin shows up to defend him, which is just as ridiculous as it sounds. The game even breaks the 4th wall before this encounter, with the Chosen One talking to himself that he should save the game in a brand new slot. And in another special random encounter, you'll meet the Knights of King Arthur. Among them is a paladin named Galahad, who was recently rescued from Castle Anthrax by Launcelot. If you're unfamiliar, Castle Anthrax is full of beautiful women eager for company, which explains why Galahad seems so frustrated about his rescue. But it doesn't stop there. The Knights will also mention the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, a powerful divine weapon from the same film. This joke would also make a reappearance years later, in Fallout New Vegas. If you have the Wild Wasteland perk and travel to a special church basement in the eastern part of Camp Searchlight, you can find holy frag grenades with instructions scratched out to count to 3 instead of 5. TARDIS. In the original Fallout, you might spot something completely out of place in the desert. A big blue police box sitting in the wasteland, seemingly appearing out of nowhere. For the uninitiated, it probably just looks weird, but fans will immediately recognize this as the TARDIS, the iconic time-traveling machine from Doctor Who. When you approach it, the light on top starts spinning, and the whole thing slowly vanishes into thin air with a whooshing sound. All that's left behind is a motion sensor for you to pick up. But there's something else here that's pretty interesting. If you look closely at the TARDIS image, you'll see something on the right door, a white panel that says, "Pull to open." Now, the latest iteration of the TARDIS actually has this panel on the left, but the TARDIS that appeared in Doctor Who between 1966 and 1968 had it on the right, exactly like the one that appeared in Fallout. Fun fact, the TARDIS is famous for being bigger on the inside because it's literally a massive spacecraft. By the time Fallout was released in 1997, Doctor Who had already been off the air for 8 years. Crashed Whale. In Fallout 2, you can stumble across one of the game's most bizarre special encounters. The crashed whale is exactly what it sounds like. You'll find a whale that apparently fell from a great height, which caused it to splatter across the area like an egg on a kitchen floor. Sitting next to it is a cardboard box filled with daisies, which seems oddly cheerful given the circumstances. This particular scene actually recreates one of the most absurd moments from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In the book, or the movie because there's actually an adaptation, the main characters are fleeing in a stolen spaceship when nuclear missiles lock onto them. Arthur Dent, the protagonist, frantically activates the ship's infinite improbability drive, a propulsion system that works by making wildly improbable things to happen. The missiles transform mid-flight into a sperm whale and a bowl of petunias, both suddenly appearing several miles above a planet's surface. The whale, having just blinked into existence with zero understanding of what's happening, spends its final minute trying to make sense of everything. Before noticing something big and flat approaching very fast, it dies on impact, wondering if the ground will be its friend. The petunias simply think, "Oh no, not again," before meeting the same fate. Honestly, this is peak Douglas Adams absurdity, so if you're confused, don't worry. Indiana Jones Skeleton. Fallout New Vegas has a brutal callback to one of the most criticized scenes in movie history. If you have the Wild Wasteland perk enabled, you can find an open refrigerator on a road leading from Good Springs. But if you open it, you're going to discover a skeleton with a fedora hat. Strange but oddly familiar, right? Well, this is a reference to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where Indy survives a nuclear test by hiding in a lead-lined fridge. Now, Obsidian clearly had opinions about this particular scene that they felt compelled to recreate it, and so they depicted what would actually happen if someone tried that stunt. It's one of those Easter eggs that makes you laugh and wince at the same time, because we all know that scene didn't make any sense. Star Wars skeletons. New Vegas took another shot at pop culture, this time honoring Star Wars. In the northwest corner of Nipton, you'll find two skeletons lying side by side next to a burnt-out house. If you check their names, they're called Owen and Beru. This is a reference to Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle from A New Hope, who were killed and burned by stormtroopers while searching for the droids. It's a somber moment in Star Wars that shaped Luke's entire journey. Now, Nipton is already a town with a dark story, thanks to the Legion, but this just adds another real layer to that. There will come soft rains. Now, this next Easter egg is one of the most haunting, and it can be found in Fallout 3. If you're in Georgetown, you can find a townhome at 2026 Bradley Place that belonged to the McClellan family. Inside, there's a dormant Mr. Handy robot that you can activate through a terminal, with one of the options allowing you to tell the robot to read the children a bedtime poem. The Mr. Handy travels to the children's bedroom, where two small skeletons lie next to a teddy bear, and recites There Will Come Soft Rains by Sarah Teasdale. It's an anti-war poem about how nature wouldn't even notice if humanity disappeared. The entire location is actually a reference to Ray Bradbury's short story of the same name from the Martian Chronicles. In Bradbury's story, a robotic house in California continues its daily routines after a nuclear war, not knowing its owners are dead. The address 2026 Bradley Place is a nod to both the author and the story's title in the collection. Other details match up too. You can tell the Mr. Handy to walk the family dog, Muffy, but the dog is already dead outside. It's a beautiful and tragic scene that completely captures the sadder side of the Fallout games. Blade Runner. Fallout's obsession with Blade Runner runs deep, and it shows up in some pretty significant ways. The most obvious tribute is the replicated man quest in Fallout 3, which basically mirrors the entire plot of the 1982 film. An android named Harkness has escaped from the Institute, and Dr. Zimmer is hunting him down. It's the exact same setup as Deckard hunting replicants in the movie, right down to the moral questions about what makes someone human. But Fallout 4 took things even further with Nick Valentine. He's essentially a walking Blade Runner tribute, a prototype synth detective with the memories of a pre-war cop. But there's an even more on-the-nose tribute to Blade Runner in the game. On the rooftop of the mass fusion containment shed, you'll find a body lying next to a kneeling, deactivated synth. It's set up to mirror the Tears and Rain scene, where Roy Batty delivers his iconic monologue on a rainy rooftop before passing away. And if you're paying attention, you might notice other small touches scattered throughout the game. The Courser uniform is designed after Roy Batty's coat, and there's even a noodle seller named Takahashi in Diamond City who only says "Nani ni shimashoka," the exact same phrase the noodle vendor uses in Blade Runner's famous noodle bar scene. The entire synth's storyline was basically inspired by Blade Runner. Skyrim Dialogue. Sometimes Easter eggs are just a wink between Bethesda games. In Fallout 76, there's a vendor named Rudy Fernandez at Big Ben Tunnel who has a very familiar line. When you approach him, Rudy will occasionally say, "Rudy has wares if you have caps." Anyone who's played Skyrim immediately recognizes this. It's a direct reference to the Khajiit merchants who famously say, "Khajiit has wares if you have coin." The line became iconic in Skyrim because of how often you'd hear it from the traveling caravans. Carl McKevitt, who worked on the Blue Ridge Caravan Company's writing, confirmed this was intentional. It's a small nod between the two massive Bethesda titles. It's not a deep Easter egg or even a really interesting one. But if you're a fan of both games, it'll make you do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Nirn Root. On the Brotherhood of Steel's airship, the Pridwin, there's a peculiar plant growing in the biolab that eagle-eyed fans might recognize. It's called Experiment NRT-001, though the scribes have nicknamed it Glowleaf. The plant is purple and glows with bioluminescence, standing out among the other experiments aboard the ship. Now here's the thing. It is believed to be a direct reference to Nirn Root from Skyrim. Nirn Root is a glowing plant in those games, named after Nirn, the planet where Elder Scrolls takes place. The Wizard of Oz. Fallout 2 packed in multiple nods to the classic 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, but it's just a little scattered. The first one is in Shady Sands, where you'll meet a young woman named Dorothy working as a city engineer who has a robot companion named Toto, similar to the movie. In another instance, you can wander the wasteland and find someone in power armor standing completely rigid. This person will keep repeating "oil can" over and over again. This is of course a reference to the Tin Man, and a direct callback to the scene where the Tin Woodsman needs oil to move. And if you're kind enough to use a nearby oil can on their armor, they'll be able to walk away and reward you with 150 microfusion cells as thanks. Goodwill Hunting. Somewhere in the ruins of the Commonwealth Institute of Technology, there's a chalkboard that tells a pretty tragic story. Behind the western entrance, you'll find a skeleton slumped next to it, and the chalkboard there has some weird drawings that reference to this problem. Draw all homeomorphically irreducible trees of size n equals 10. This is actually a direct recreation of one of the most iconic scenes from the movie Good Will Hunting. In the 1997 film, a janitor named Will secretly solves an impossibly difficult math problem that an MIT professor left on a hallway chalkboard to his students. Now, I'm going to try my best to explain it here, but simply put, it's a puzzle about listing all genuinely different branching shapes made from 10 dots with no filler pieces. And to be honest, it's apparently not that difficult to solve. It's just that Matt Damon wrote himself in it as the troubled genius. But more importantly, it's the same exact problem that appears in Fallout 4. And that's Fallout's best Easter eggs explained. Got a favorite hidden gem I missed? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Fallout lore dives.